Hello, hello, and welcome to Paint Minis Live. I'm your host, Bill T. It's good to see all of you today, or tonight, I suppose. It's about 9 o'clock now, for those of you in the replay. So, I was hoping to get to some painting last night, but I got a little bit carried away with a couple of other things that I was working on, and I didn't end up streaming last night. And then tonight, we ended up, me and Miss PML, we started watching Nosferatu, and that was really fun. So I am excited to kind of go and finish that up. So tonight's going to be a smaller stream, probably about an hour, maybe a little bit longer, because we're going to start the Shadow Guard portion of our paint job, I guess, for the Dungeon Minister here. And something that I like to do with, I guess, any kind of paint project that I start with is to make like a master model. Especially when I'm doing batch painting or painting that is dealing in squads of miniatures or, more than just one or two of the same kind of paint scheme. I tend to go with like having a master model that I paint up for, to start with, and I replicate on each individual model in the run of miniatures that I'm painting. So that's what we're doing tonight. And it's interesting, it's fun, it's kind of a time to play around and kind of see where ideas and paint schemes what works best, I suppose, with ideas that I'm coming up with on the fly with reference art and other things like that. The Shadow Guard, they're kind of cloaked in black, so we did a lot of black with the Wolfenstein project, and that was good. Uh, it felt a little repetitive with that project just because there were so many black pieces. So I'm hoping to employ some other techniques to, I guess, not only further my own art style with this, but also to give more story and depth to these miniatures. The other miniatures we're working on currently is Morgan's Men at Arms, and those are a collection of about 8 miniatures, and they're done up in green with other kind of colors that are going to be added in the future. I hope to return to that tomorrow and get a lot more paint done there. But I realized by the time I was going to work on them that they needed 24 hours for the matte varnish to set and to be ready to like move on to the next stage. And if the varnish is not set before you go on to the washing stage, there's kind of a chance that the paint will take and like peel up the like all the way down to the primer, especially when you're doing a the active wash technique that I've been learning from Kenny Boucher at Next Level Painting. It it's a very it's a very wet process, meaning that there's a lot of fluid involved, and it can just be detrimental to your work. So the Shadow Guard part of this is going to be kind of playing around with base colors, um, maybe a little less on the contrast side, where I'm just kind of trying to see the colors that I envision for the models at hand. I don't have a ton of like reference images or any other kind of bits and pieces in that way, because as I've watched some of what Dungeon Minister has put out with his campaign, and that's who I'm making these for, which you should definitely go and check out here on YouTube, the Dungeon Minister. The From what he's got going on, it's a renegade faction. They are essentially this faction of people. Their count has been pushed out of their holdings, so to speak, and they are now trying to retake what was theirs and come back in. And it got me thinking. I was like, I was just thinking to myself before I started painting this, how reminiscent this guerrilla faction was to uh, somebody trying to push back into their hometown and get, you know, essentially back what was theirs. Somebody stole this from them. Um, and although it's not a situation where somebody stole something from someone else, it very much so to me felt kind of like World War One. And I started thinking a lot about Trench Crusade. And Trench Crusade is a game platform, a tabletop skirmish game that's been in development for a little while now. If you go ahead and Google Trench Crusade, you'll come up with the company website. It's very cool. It's angels versus demons, kind of with humans in the middle, style skirmish game done up with World War One tech. It's very interesting. Go take a look at it. But it just got me thinking about that. And so I started researching a little bit further into poems of World War One, because in my growing up and in my childhood, I I was I was huge on the military channel, and a lot of that was like World War Two. There was some things on World War One in that, in the time that I was watching that. So I I was looking at the poems and I saw the poem that this episode was named after, and it gave me an idea, and I was like, man, not everything has to be in this grayscale type of tone where it's black, dark gray, light gray, and wash and black again to make it all dark. I wonder if we can add in the muck. Let's get, you know, let's get brown in there. Let's get some, I've got some of this leftover GW. I think it's called Mordant Earth, something like that. I'm sure I've got it somewhere around here. But yeah, Mordant Earth. This stuff. I picked it up for a project a while back, and um, I have not used it since. But it's a gloopy kind of mix. I was like, man, we should stick that on a model and kind of make it look like these guys have been through heck and back, because essentially that's what they're doing. They don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of resources. They have what they have on their back, and the things that they can't afford and that they're getting now. They're running through these resources at a quick rate, so everything is precious to them, and even the boots that they have on their feet are going to be caked in mud and muck, and they're barely going to have time to clean them because they're going out and doing it all over again very shortly. So I thought it would be kind of fun to play with browns, grays, dark greens, various other colors, and kind of create more interest to the eye, so to speak, when it comes to these this Shadow Guard faction, because they are supposedly cloaked in black, and I that is cool, but it's also very hard to replicate on a miniature. Doing black is essentially just grayscale, and it's tough to pull off in a way that intrigues the eye. Um, but we have one live chat lounge cat hanging out with us so far. 10 minutes in, we got a couple of people joining us still. Thanks for being here, everybody. I do appreciate it. Again, tonight's going to be more about let's paint our master model. Let's bring our imaginations to life. If you want to throw out some suggestions, things that shoot out in your mind that might bring some more interest and depth to the model, let's do it. Let's try it out, because the worst that happens is I strip the model of everything that I've done on it, and I prime it again, and we start over. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm going to make sure that everything is ready to go on the paint end of things. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of our our design. I suppose as long as I'm looking at it, what's going on there, Miss BML? Hello, hello. Uh, as long as I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and shoot up our affiliates link. If you'd like to take out your phone, if you're on a PC, desktop kind of thing, you can scan that QR code and you can go and find the Dungeon Minister and all of our other wonderful affiliates. I know Bill Sylvie, the Dungeon Delver, had his birthday the other day. He's one of our affiliates, and he runs a wonderful 5 night a week show. And we have all kinds of people. We have Dirty Basement Terrain. We have Merlinster Gandaldor. I'm still working on that one. We have Hexed Press. We have just a ton of affiliates with Paint Minis Live now. And all of those affiliates, if you go and take a look at our shop and you decide there's something there that you really can't live without, if you go and check out their social media pages and find the link that they've got for Paint Minis Live, you can go ahead and support them, and you get a free physical. Well, not a free, but you get a physical thing in your hands, and they get a very large portion of the profit that comes out of that sale. So consider it. It's there if you'd like it. Just shameless plug. Moving on, we're gonna get into our paint here, and go ahead and see what we can do. I've decided on a spearman as our model of choice tonight. I'm going to go ahead and get our branding kind of tucked back there. The thing down below, that ticker there, is everybody who's affiliated with PML, by the way. So go ahead and check out all these fine people. Shadow and Sun, Bo Paints Minis, Bear the Gen X GM, James F. Keck Games, Red Caps Podcast, who, by the way, is a wonderful gentleman, and you should definitely check out Red Caps because the intrigue on that podcast is quite interesting. Many, I guess, game industry related folks on that podcast. I am currently diving my way through some Red Caps content. But I'm going to go ahead and get rid of our PML stuff here, and we'll bring in our other camera. If I could, for just a moment, bear with me. I'm still learning how to do all of the things and stuff. There we are. Okay. So this is our model. Again, a spearman. He's got this like cat ear helmet. They all do. If you have seen our previous episode here about the, let's see, what were they called? Morgan's Men at Arms. They are very much so the same sculpt, just without the shield emblem. So I think that's kind of interesting, and I think it does play well into the Dungeon Minister's kind of campaign theory that he's got, or not theory, but lore crafting that he has going on, where he's the faction that's been kicked out of their home turf is trying to buy back essentially their turf through building an army, and the the weapons, the hiring men to be a part of an army, and the equipment part of it is all being funded through a group effort, and I think this shows. So, yeah, maybe the people that we're working on currently are part of that, and they're making the weapons and the shields and the other things that are associated with the other project we have going on here. You can follow the progress of this if you want to. It's going to be kind of a back and forth style documentary, I suppose, of the paintwork between the two as we go forward. But with that being said, I've primed them in dark gray. This isn't black. It might show up a little bit black on the camera. I'm not a photographer. It's not one of my fortes. I'm still trying to figure out how to white balance the camera that I have. But I do know that sometimes the colors show up a little different. I hope that you can see currently. I'm gonna turn on the booth here. Now you can really see it. The spray booth that I have. You can see it now. It's dark gray, and so if we were to go down the monochromatic route of black, gray, light gray, white, kind of in that order, we would probably end up with a nice black style mini. But in my mind, what would be more intriguing is let's take black. Well, I was kind of thinking let's take black and put it in the recesses, but a wash is going to do that anyways. We'll skip that. Why don't we take brown? Maybe. So let's do brown and put it in some areas. It's going to look really weird. I haven't done this before, but I've seen miniatures done in an aspect of this. But we're going to put brown in some places that would be reminiscent of historical miniatures. So bottom of the cape here, maybe we're going to put brown on the boots, up the shins. We might put it at this side of the cloak. We're gonna put brown in these places. We're gonna indicate some mud. I think the first thing we should do then, if we're gonna do that, is we're gonna make a. We're gonna go ahead and take some of this paste, this Mordant Earth paste. I think. It seems like it's kind of a crackle effect with this, but it's so dry due to the fact that it's winter. I think we should be able to get away with this fairly easily. But we're going to take some of this and put it on there. And we're going to get a texture effect going on. Anything at this point, I am A-okay with. Because, again, this is just a exercise in imagination. What can we do with the things that we currently have on hand? And how can we make something interesting? So I've got a lot of this Mordant Earth stuff going on. I'm gonna start painting some of this on here. Very splotchy like, and I might not see exactly what this does right off the bat. That's okay. I think I've used this one other time. I believe it crackles after it dries. I might be wrong. We'll see. I think what I would do too is add maybe like some sand to this, but I don't have any sand, unfortunately. So we'll see as this dries here what happens with it. But I want desperately to make some like texture going on with these models. I want them to look like they've been through a lot. So we're gonna go ahead and make sure we get them very glooped. Maybe not that glooped. Either way, we're gonna go. Hey, what's going on, Calvinoni? The one and only. Hope you're doing well. We're playing around a little bit with some texture paints here. I'm trying to kind of figure out what this Mordant Earth paint does. I believe it's kind of a crackle paint, if I remember right. It's one of the GW technical paints. But I'm just trying my best to get some different texture on these guys. I want them to look almost like soldiers from World War I or something, where they've been slogging through the mud, and give them some of that lived in feel, I suppose. So that's why I'm going with this for starters. I'm using a synthetic brush for this, just something I don't mind messing up, just in case. This seems like something you'd have to kind of really glob on there. Yeah, there we go. We're getting definitely some raised definition out of this. Maybe we can do some rust if we have to. I don't know. Just kind of looking at stippling effect and how this can give us a bit more curb appeal, so to speak. But I do want this to look like they've been through the trenches of combat. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. That's drying. It is very, very dry down here. I have a dehumidifier down here just for the show's sake. Because I need the layers to dry in such a time that, we can have an entertaining, let's paint together kind of show. So I'm hoping that this dries quickly enough that we can maybe see what happens with it. What's going on? D and Disability is in the house. Ricky Marui is D and Disability at its finest. If you haven't seen D and Disability, I highly recommend you go and check him out, them out. I suppose it's now becoming quite the production over at D and Disability between Ricky Maru and Miru, not Marui, Maru, Tonka Todd, and a couple other fine friends. So yeah. Calvinoni, I played around with sprue goo earlier, made a mushroom or a tree, hit the top with a skull roller too. It's drying. Oh, cool. You have like one of those textured skull rollers. That's very cool. Never had any luck with Crackle products yet. I haven't had a ton either. It seems like it's very tough to get them to work properly. But this seems like it's doing a little bit different here. Let's get some close up. I feel like this is one of those things where I might have to let that set for a little while. Oh, okay. So as you can see, it is more like a sand particle effect. It's very dark because it's black, but you can see the cracks that are starting to form in there. And I'm not mad about that at all. That's kind of what I'm going for. I now kind of realizing what is going on there. I'm happy it's doing that, but it seems like you definitely have to get a lot of this on. Like very much so gloopy gloppy kind of technical paint. I'm just not so familiar with GW stuff, but this was all I could get my hands on in a short notice because they're so nefariously good at making sure everybody has their stuff. We're getting their analysis of The Wanderer this week. Very cool, very cool. Well, I'm excited to hear that. I hope you have good luck with that. I'm gonna just go ahead and get a whole bunch of this stuff on the bottom here. We're gonna make that a thing. We'll just maybe target some specific areas that we want very glooped, that won't affect our sculpt quite as much. There we go. And I guess we just kind of see how See how that works. It looks like that's maybe too much. I'm going to remove some. Okay. All right. Again, tonight's kind of just what do we want this to look like? And I've been thinking about this for a while because they're a very. It seems like they're kind of an important faction in some of the story going forward with what the dungeon minister's got going on. What kind of paint it is? What kind of paint is it? It's a technical paint out of Citadel. It's called Mordant Earth, and from what I've seen, it's a paint that is supposed to crackle. And if you look at my glove here, it's already, because of the heat of my skin, it's getting very, very crackly. I know that might be a little tough for you to see, but I'm zooming in as far as I can. It just kind of peels in certain places and crackles. I think I'm gonna paint brown over it with the airbrush so it looks like peeled mud or something. I'm going with a World War One, soldier's boot who has been like just crusted through the muck of no man's land is what I would really like with these guys. I'll post a pic of the shroom in Discord. Well, let me go and check that out. Also, those dice, Cal, were looking really wonderful too on the mini showcase. I had to comment on that. They were really cool. I didn't realize just how much the contrast paint or the speed paint would affect them, and I think they look wonderful. Whoa, that is a very large batch of sprue goo. That's really cool, though. Yeah, look at that. That looks almost like how big is that? Like, could you give is that like 2 inches? Is that like 6 inches? I see a pair of like glasses maybe under that. That's got to be over maybe 4 or 5 inches in length there. That's really cool. We got 5 live chat lounge cats hanging out with us. How you doing? We're waiting for our Mordant Earth here to kind of do whatever it does before I put some brown over the top of it. Kind of just playing around a little bit with some ideas here on our men-at-arm going on. Feel free to say hello, ask any questions, or just say hi. Love to hear from you. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's definitely that's huge, dude. Woo, that is a big piece. I think I have a very similar. I think that that looks like the same kind of. Do I have that? I don't think I have it down here, but it looks like a very similar soldering armature to what I have, and I know how big that is. So that's a fairly 5.5 inches tall. Very cool. Very cool. Remember to give them bright colors. Indeed. Indeed. Okay. Let's see what happens when we start shooting some brown at this. I don't know if this is necessarily the right way I'm going about it. This seems like something you would need quite a lot of cure time to get done with, but I'm very happy with what's happening here. I have Games Workshop. I have a hard time purchasing their mainline colors because they're so expensive, and I really don't like how their pots are built. If I can just back up here, I might be giving some people motion sickness, but these paint pots, I really dislike how they're built. Not only if you get any of the paint on the back side of this, if it doesn't seal right, you'll end up losing all of the paint. If it's one of their washes, and you have it on, you're dipping your paintbrush in it, and then all of a sudden you push a little too hard and it knocks over. Well, now you're out your $8 worth of wash. I mean, it's not a very good design, but I will admit some of their technical stuff, and I will say this is absolutely and like there is nobody else that can replicate Blood for the Blood God. It is some of the best stuff on the market. So I do keep just a little bit of some like Citadel stuff around. I've moved away from them personally, but that's my take. What's going on, Mike Dymart? It's a lot of sprue goo. Indeed, that is a lot of sprue goo. Medieval people loved garish colors. Indeed. Indeed. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I think this has come out very well. I'm going to see what happens when we take our airbrush here, and I'm going to see if we put some brown to it, does it look like somebody has a bunch of dried mud on their stuff? I'm going to get some tunes going too, just something to relax to. I'm thinking about it. I think for this, we're going to use dark golden brown. I'm just going to skip the dark colors because if you try, if in my mind anyways, if you try and like do a dry brush over this, it's going to take all those flecks right off, and that's kind of what I want to do. I think you had some great success though with that skull roller there, Cal. I do see when I look at it, I do see some of the skulls in there, and it's a very wild effect. I will admit, if I could, just a little constructive criticism. I think this is more of a material, like the material itself, but it does look in some places like it's like somebody mushed a plastic bag. But I think it kind of adds to it too. It's so weird, like just very alien is how it hits me. It looks very, very alien. If you added, if you went through and did some very neon colors with this and put this as some kind of alien world type of artifact thing, the mushroom tree of life, I think this would be a wonderful centerpiece. That is so weird how that just reacted with your roller too. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. All right. So we've got our airbrush here. We've got our golden brown. Let's find out what happens. Let me get some flow improver. I have to buy... This is kind of funny. I've had this bottle of flow improver around since I think basically the first episode of Paint Minis Live. Maybe even early. No, yeah, basically the first episode of Paint Minis Live, I had this bottle. It was definitely before them, but like I hadn't done a ton of painting, so when I first cracked this bottle was basically our first episode, and we're almost out. We're below the bottom of the label. And that's like kind of crazy to me that we've done so much painting on this channel that I have to go, I might have to go and buy some more flow improver. And it's thanks to you guys keeping me company and, just kind of hanging out, sharing what you've done, that we're at the point here where we've thrown enough paint. That's just kind of a little sentimental to me. So I'm going to throw in probably, I've put in about 4 drops of flow improver. I'm going to put 3 drops of this brown. I know it's just a little bit thinner. I'm going to see if we can't get a 4th in there. Yeah, that's fine. I know this brown is just a little bit thinner than most of the paints in their line, so I'm going to add just a little bit extra to make sure we're kind of sitting pretty. And then I'm going to mix it here in the color cup with a brush. And we'll do a little bubble, toil and trouble. We'll be done with that. I'm just really curious. Airbrush over crackle paint. How does that work? I'm not sure. And that's how fun it is. You just started painting and made the channel? Oh, no. I've been painting since I was how long ago was that? 17, I think. 17 I started painting for real. My first model was about 12. And that was, my grandfather was into model aircraft. He was an aircraft controller, air traffic controller stationed in Okinawa during World War II. And when he got back to the States, he bought models of the airplanes that he was able to ride in during his time at Okinawa Air Force Base, because they would get up to all kinds of shenanigans there. And so he would buy models of it to kind of remember some of those stories of airmen who would bring up the people in the control tower for a joyride, so to speak. And so that's where I learned a lot of techniques on how to build models and what works and what doesn't. And I built my first, I think it was a Tomcat, was my first model that I made. And I absolutely loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing under the sun. It was a super simple snap together kit, but it had like opposable landing gear and stuff. And I won't really forget the look that I got from Grandpa when he saw it, even though it was absolutely the most it was terrible. The paint job on it was terrible, but like he was just so happy that I had taken up something that was part of his life. It was really special. One of those sentimental moments in life. And then later on down the line, he was also like into comic book collecting, because they get like a lot of Disney comics shipped to them from the States for being out overseas during the war. And so he was an avid Disney comic book collector, and he left me a box of offcuts one day at our house. He was gone, but like, you know, he just left it at the door and was like, hey, you know, if you like reading them or whatever, you know, do what you like with them. Have fun, Grandpa, kind of thing, you know, just left him at the door. And so I took the comic books and I was like, oh man, I don't even know what these are worth. Like, I should go and research it. And lo and behold, I started researching these old Disney comic books, and none of them were really worth much, because a lot of them had things like somebody's name written in them or whatever. So they lost a lot of their value. And I wasn't like miffed at that, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't, I knew what I had in my hands, and that was pretty cool. So I researched it all. I found out kind of about the value, and I went down to a local comic book shop, and I was like, I'm really, you know, thanks, Grandpa, but I don't really have an interest in comic books. You know, what can I get for these at the comic book shop? Because I knew that this was part of his collection that he wasn't really gonna care about. This was, he was giving this to a kid to essentially, mess around with. So he didn't really care what I did with them. He just wanted to give them out, and because he knew that I would appreciate them and do something good with them. So I went and took the store credit that they gave me and invested it in some like 40K models, which I thought were super cool. And then I really got into serious painting because I had a little bit of capital to buy paints and actually like good brushes, and started watching how to paint minis from some really talented painters. Kenny Boucher was one of the first that I had stumbled upon, and I'm currently taking professional lessons from him on how to paint miniatures. And so that's kind of where our journey takes us. But little recollection there. I know some of you have heard that story about 1,000,000 times now. I feel like I should be in a nursing home every time I tell it, just because I've told it about 1,000,000 times. But thanks for bearing with me. So that's how PML came into existence. We had the COVID eras kind of thing going on, and I had painted up some really wonderful pieces there that I thought were a bit more than amateur hour. And, I was very, very proud of the work that I had put in. And I was like, man, I think I really should start taking some of these tips that I've been aggregating over the past, 6 years of miniature painting, and I should share them with the world, especially with so many people getting in on painting miniatures, since a lot of people were going out and buying Games Workshop kits to do Warhammer 40K because they had all this newfound spare time. I should probably, teach them how to paint them, or at least, give them some, an idea of what to do. Because when I first started, I was totally lost. I thought you just glooped it on and, your Space Marine was blue like this glove, and you just gloop it on and that's it. But as I learned, I was like, there's more you can do with this if you want to take the time to get better and kind of learn your trade. And so I started off doing Warhammer 40K stuff. It really didn't hit, and I started reaching out to people I was watching on YouTube, and lo and behold, Bill Sylvie, the Dungeon Delver, picked up after and I was messaging a ton of people, but he picked up and was like, yeah, I'll send you something to paint, and we'll figure it out from there. And that's exactly what happened. So we've got some brown going on here. The cloak, I'm going to keep gray. The shield, I'm going to keep gray. It looks like the tunic part of this really didn't catch a lot of that crackle, and I'm fine with that. I think the other color, I'll just share this now. You five that are in here, as far as I can see, if there are more people in here currently, go ahead and just give me a hello in the chat. But I can only see so far from what the metrics I've got is that there's 5 people in here. But you guys are going to see something that nobody else has seen so far, and that's going to be the count that I have painted up for the Dungeon Minister. Now, unfortunately, because I had to get him shipped home due to the fact that the CBP wouldn't let me actually bring him across to hand deliver to the Dungeon Minister. Here is Count Cormac as part of his campaign. So as you can see, I was struggling to get this ready in time for Clericon when I went, but we've got a very nice kind of monochromatic black color scheme going on here. And then in his other hand, he has a pennant And if I can maybe put that back in the right place here, you'll see it's a very kind of dramatic pose he's got going on. But it looks something like that, where he's got his pennant in one hand and whatnot. But this is their leader, so to speak. Very predominant on the grays, and the other color though is the yellow. So I think we can maybe start adding in some of that yellow to our main model and kind of seeing what happens. I'm hoping, if I can figure it out, what I'd like to do is add custom decals to the shield with the raven that they have for his house. I would really like to put a custom decal on his shield with those inkjet transfer label or transfer decals. That's something that I really want to do. But I haven't figured it out, nor do I know of a inkjet printer that I can use, because all of the printers that I have access to at work or at home are they're not inkjet. So we're gonna see if that comes to fruition. Oh, speaking of the man, hello, Dungeon Minister. I'm going to catch up with chat here, because it looks like I'm missing a couple. I only do the basics. I did really like painting terrain, though. Well, keep painting terrain if that's what you like doing. Have fun with it. Go ham dinner. Lawrence from Dirty Basement, I'm sure he would love to have a chat with you on doing terrain stuff. And I haven't seen the dice tower made from dental stone. This past week, I got the Age of Sigmar starter set cheap at my smallest game store, and a bunch of bases and basing half off. Very cool. Like the Skaven. Skaven are fun. They're like kind of crazy little rat men. I enjoy them too. Yeah, it's basically monochromatic from black to like light gray. And there's the Dungeon Minister coming in. Move it on painting yellow over squiddly bits or squidmar. Oh, Squidmar miniatures. Yeah, I've heard of him. I've seen his stuff. So we've been kind of following here. Welcome to Paint Minis Live, the funnest place to watch paint dry. As we've watched this Mordant Earth technical paint turn the bottom of our cloak into just a mud madness piece here. The bottom of that boot is looking pretty good too. Our shield has definitely done up very well too. You know, I think this is kind of where we're going with this. If you check out the name of the stream tonight and just copy and paste that into Google, there's a really wonderful poem done from from a World War I soldier, I believe, and talking about how they're marching through the muck and the mud, and that's kind of the inspiration I'm taking for these guys. They don't have a ton of like wealth at their back. It's just they have to make their equipment go and slog as long as they possibly can. They don't even get to clean it, because as soon as they get back, they're almost, they're basically going out again. They're undermanned, underpowered, outgunned, and they're fighting a guerrilla war. So we're gonna make them look mucky and kind of a little bit nasty, but they're going to preserve their heritage in the best ways that they know how. So we've got warm yellow up on we got yellow ochre. I feel like yellow ochre is going to be better. So we have yellow ochre here. Let me zoom that out a little bit. We got yellow ochre, and then warm yellow, I think, is going to be our highlight color. So kind of a brown yellow, almost like a Dijon, and then we have our full-on Frenches. So I think that's how we're going to do it for a yellow contribution here. I'm going to get that on the paint shaker, and we're going to shake it up and see what happens. We're going to put this on some of the cloth elements, except for the cape, because they're the shadow guard. We're gonna make sure that we have a nice dark cape. That way they can like pull it around them and they're like totally rogued out. What's going on, grumpy old Slan? Long time no see. Hey, by the way, I wanted to say, grumpy old Slan, the recommendations you made about the T-shirts when I was printing them, they were absolutely, they were good. I ended up with quite a few really nice prints that I could hand out to the family. They were super stoked about it. They really wanted some Paint Minis Live T-shirts and sweatshirts to wear, because they're totally on board with it. They came out looking great, though. So thank you very much for all the contributions you had. I know you had quite a few really good ideas, so thank you again. And I hope you have a wonderful night's sleep. And thanks for dropping by. Unless you plan on hanging around for a while, which, in that, I'm not mad. It's always good to see you around. Why not 3D print a stencil? I saw that from D and Disability. Why not 3D print a stencil? Squidmar is like the pinnacle of painting. Yeah, I suppose, but I one of the reasons why I have Paint Minis Live as a thing too, like Squidmar, that's all he does. I'm pretty sure that guy doesn't do, he doesn't need another job. His job is painting. And if your job is doing nothing but painting, you can get really, really, really good at that. I do a lot of other stuff, so you get to see all of my mistakes live, and I can totally understand, when you hit that professional pinnacle. If I were to ever break out and get into the pro leagues, yeah, I'd get pretty good pretty quick, because that's all you're doing is painting minis. But knowing technique and knowing some other things, you can get quite a ways and make some really cool miniatures. As far as a 3D stencil, that would be kind of tough at this scale. We're talking a 28 millimeter scale. That's pretty small. I'm not sure what you're referencing there, but if you're talking about like mud effects, there, D and Disability. Oh, for the Shield logo, yeah, 3D stencil. That's also going to be kind of tough. I've actually thought about cutting it out of paper using my laser cutter, because I know I can cut paper to like very, very thin amounts. I might have to try that out. That's a good idea, though. I'm going to have to follow up on that. I'm sorry, I'm just catching up on so much chat. Everybody's here, and I love it. Life in Montreal. Glad I could help. Yeah, thanks again, Grumpy Old Slan. Came in clutch as usual. Spent the day together in Montreal with a friend. Wonderful. Already, let's see here. Chilly weather for it. That sounds like a good day. Very cool. Bob Ross is the true pinnacle of painting on camera. Yes. Nobody can replace Bobby R. Absolute mastermind of painting. I just watched... Oh, man. Was it Painter? Or Paint, I believe was the name of the movie. Absolutely hilarious. I'll have to go look it up later, but it was basically... now I gotta look it up, because I don't know actor names off the top of my head. Let's see here. Paint movie. Yeah, let's see. 2023. Owen Wilson. Yeah, Owen Wilson plays as Carl Nargle, who's essentially Bob Ross, and it follows a very hilarious storyline of Carl Nargle essentially getting ousted from the top seat as television, like local cable television painter. It's pretty funny, and I would highly recommend anybody who's familiar with Bob Ross stuff to go check that out. It's really funny. So we're gonna go ahead and add our yellow ochre to our paint pot here and start chipping away on our kilt, I suppose. All right, take care there, D and Disability. Thanks for dropping by. I do appreciate it. Acetate, yeah, I could definitely cut acetate too. Man, you are just like a wealth of knowledge over here there, grumpy old Slan. And I'm doing it off camera. Here we go. So I'm gonna spray just a little bit of this this dark ochre yellow color into the shadows so that we can get a bit of a just the idea that it's supposed to be that color, but I want it to be very transparent. That when folks look at it, they don't think that this is supposed to be all of the color. Or I guess the that it's supposed to be the shadow color. Since I'm only using two colors here, I want to fake it out in a way that that makes it a little bit believable that this is kind of a mid-tone instead of just the shadow color. And I think you can kind of see that on the camera where we've got just a little bit of color there. It's very dark in those places. And then when you come up to that top of the knee, very light. That is our color right there. You look on this side, oh, there it is again, but it's dark again. So, oop. And I'm just gonna have him do a somersault. Yeah, so I'm throwing things around. Yeah, this plastic part here, I'm actually working under a this is a spray booth here. So you can see the this whole thing here is a filter that's graded for very, very fine particulates, and then there's a fan that sucks all of the particulate in and out the backside. So it gets caught in there. I should probably order a new filter soon, but I think it's got a little bit of life left in it. So we're still plugging away here, but yeah, everything's fine. I don't wear a mask. This is more than enough to get sucked into the spray booth. Just kind of show you here. Here's the. You can see how far away I can pull, and it just ends up on the screen in the back there. So I'm not inhaling any acrylic if you're worried about it, but I do appreciate it. I think anybody who's spraying acrylic, you should definitely, if you don't have any ventilation at all, you should be wearing a mask. And and that's even a problem too, because it'll linger in the air. But you should definitely have something that is filtering the particulate out of whatever you're spraying on. So just a heads up. Yellow ogre than a king in yellow. Bill Alexander, Powerful Mountains. I have not seen that. I can't say I have. So we have that bit. The shield's going to be black because we don't want, well, going to be dark gray for now. We have that. We're going to go ahead and work on the other, our highlight now. I'm struggling to keep up with the chat here and paint at the same time. This is the part of the show where half of it is socializing, which I love doing, and half of it is painting, which I love doing. So it's hard to like keep up with both. But I'm going to go ahead and add our highlight color so we can get some more pizzazz and intrigue, I guess. Some more interest to the eye. I do like the idea of there's only one part of them that you can kind of know if they're friend or foe, and that's their kilt, you know, or the tunic, bottom tunic part, or whatever you want to call this. That's the only part that you would know if they're friend or foe. And it, in, I guess, theme with the Dungeon Minister, if somebody were to put an arc in the sand and you were a follower of a specific someone, you would put an arc in the opposite direction and it would make a fish. And that was a secret way of knowing if you were a friend or a foe. And so I think it would be kind of cool that, you know, we're gonna do most of this as a kind of black color scheme, so it's not gonna be super catching to the eye. But if they revealed to you from under their cloak that they've got this yellow, then they're a friend. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? I think that's kind of cool, and I want to follow that a little bit further. Yeah. Alex, a lot of wet on wet techniques. Yeah, I still have yet to kind of perfect wet blending myself, which I think is what you're talking about. Wet blending, airbrushes do just natively. When you mix colors and you use trigger control, or you actually blend the paint in the color cup, it's a very unique style. It's a lot of gradient going on there. But wet blending, I think is what you're kind of getting at there, Dungeon Minister. And I can totally understand how they might be a little bit angry that Bob Ross liked to use a lot of like visual trickery, and it's amazing to me how much when you stand back from his paintings, you can see you see visually a beautiful landscape, and it's a lot of this like visual trickery. It's very similar to painting models. Sometimes we'll use certain techniques to essentially make visual trickery. But a lot of people say they'll paint miniatures that look really good at a 6-inch or a 12-inch, good looking model, and like that's how they rate their stuff. And I've always tried to strive for I can make a model look good at 3 inches, 3 to 6 inches from your eye, and the camera's not going to pick it up. But if this was your eye, and we're talking about 3 inches, I want it to look good, looking like that, not about that far away, and definitely not about that far away. I want it to look good at about 3 inches from your eye. So the visual trickery part of it you can get away with at various distances, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. What's going on, Light Main? I hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Good to see you. Suggests way more than he shows. I agree. Still, I got to respect somebody. I mean, that dude has mastered the art of making beautiful pictures that fool the eye, especially with and acrylic, like base acrylic paint for classical painting. It has a 3D effect to it with the amount of, and I'm not going to lie, this is the term, the amount of gouache. It's called gouache. The amount of gouache that they use. Miniature paint doesn't have a lot of gouache because you're working at such a small level. But actual artist's paint has gouache to it. It's got, when the paint dries, it keeps its form. You could make a mountain of paint by just squeezing it out of the bottle, and it would hold its shape when it dries. It's the gouache of it, which is absolutely hilarious when you're using just straight acrylic. Model paint doesn't have that because of the how crushed the pigment is and how it's supposed to operate. It's supposed to essentially create a second skin over the model. So we're going to use 2 drops here of warm yellow, and then we're going to go golden yellow for the highlight. See how that treats us. Again, just kind of I'm playing with colors here. It's very much so a exploratory session tonight, which is why we're only doing one model. I'm not trying to knock all of the Shadow Guard out, but due to the fact that I need to have the acrylic or the varnish set overnight, I can't work on Morgan's Men-at-Arms currently. Got to wait a little while for them to get ready to go. Looks like I need a little bit more paint here, maybe. Yeah, I think I need a little more paint. Lightmane, what's new? Tell me about it. What have you been working on? I'm curious to hear. I paint them for viewing from like 2 feet away. 48 inches, that is A-okay by me. I honestly, any viewing distance, it's 100% up to you. It's just what are you proud with? What do you have time for? What are you looking to achieve? Do what makes you feel good. Because at the end of the day, if you're painting and you're not enjoying it, that's a problem. Then you know, if you don't enjoy what you're doing and you're doing it, then it's just that's too much. Don't do that to yourself. Just if you want your players to see a skeleton and it just needs to be white, and you put a couple of black dots inside the skull to make it, you know, look a certain way, like, and that makes you happy and your players are happy and you're, you know, well, you are happy first off. Like, if that's what you got time for and that's what you want to do it. That's what you should be doing. And, like, by all means, do that. Because painting should, first and foremost, be something that pleases you. And secondly, is something, you know, that you want to strive to be better at. For me, that's my, you know, the secondary part of it. I enjoy painting. I want to get better at it. That's my secondary element. I've never played with miniatures, so I never painted anyways. Well, grumpy old Slan, I'll tell you what. Next time I'm up in the Canada neck of the woods, which I hope I can get back up there. I really want to. I want to bring some minis. I want to run a game because I think it's going to take a little bit of setup, but I think that would be absolutely fun. I saw somebody bring in some wonderful stuff at Claricon that first night, and man, the amount of work I would put in on that would be insane to do up a fun night there at Claricon. I think minis add in just a little bit of visual reference for the players. That you can read a book. Don't get me wrong; books are great, but I think having a little bit of visual reference. Pardon me. A little bit of visual reference is never a bad thing. I'm going to bring you in here. It's very faint. Might not really pick up too well, but what I've done is if you were to picture this area here that I'm pointing at with the two prongs here, this area, if you were to make a square, I've just outlined that square. A lot of miniature painting is just making very simple shapes, like a square. So I've made a square here. I made a triangle between this, if you were to look at the top prong on my airbrush here, the needle guard, where the belt is here, I've made a triangle here. And so if you look here, you might be able to see a little bit of the original color poking out on this side, but then it's very bright if you look at it this angle. It's hard to describe. The camera doesn't pick it up as well as I'd like, but you can see a little bit of a gradient form there now. Let's see if I can't just really make that stand out on his... Yeah, there we go. So we've got a little bit more of a gradient happening there. Kind of starting to think about the actual black and gray part of this. So, I mean, and this we've done before. I'm not really trying to content hog some stuff. I mean, I know there's people out there who will teach the same thing over and over again. But in my mind, I guess we're going down that kind of covert route. And they do have a black cape, so we'll see what we can do with that. Let's check out the chat here. I'm trying to keep up. I'm only painting against my old self. Amen to that, Cal. And just keep thinking that way. You're only painting with, you're only painting with yourself. You're only painting against yourself. You don't have to. If what you want is tabletop ready, find what tabletop ready means to you, and you'll go from there. I personally, my tabletop ready might be different than yours, but I have fun with the painting part of it. Some people, they just paint to game, and that's cool too. Just do that, do you. Find where your limit is. Now, if you'd like somebody to pay for your service, that's a different level of, complexity that you're adding in there. And that's what I'm, striving to achieve, is something that somebody would be interested in that. But I also just like to have fun with colors, and, like tonight, we're just kind of playing around, seeing what works. I've recently been making videos about older CCGs. I remember the last one that I watched was about a dragon-based card game. That was super fun. Stands for Legend of Five Rings. Yeah, that looks. I want to go and check out that too. Glad to hear that, Light Main. The art is incredible, based on Japanese mythology. Super cool. Struggling to write book 3. Best of luck to you. Not a writer myself, but the first one has been great. Minis help a lot with combat and lots when gaming with kids. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Tough market, I suppose it would be. Take care there, Dungeon Minister. Yeah, I know you're on the job tomorrow, so take care and have fun. Tomorrow morning. I know you'll knock it out of the park as usual. I'm considering getting some Order of the Stick minis for a project I have in mind. Might be done in the fall, but will probably take me a year to finish too many projects in the works. I haven't heard of Order of the Stick, but that sounds entertaining. And I'm in my mind, I'm just kind of picturing super stick figures. Next up on the chopping block, we have golden yellow, and this is a pretty high contrast yellow. We're gonna give that a shot and see what happens on our fabric here. See if it's worth it taking it all the way up to the highest contrast yellow I have. I seem to have a glut of hobbies and a full-time job and side projects. I hear you there. Yeah, Wyvern, that's what it was. That's what it was, Wyvern. I really enjoyed. I just liked looking at the art and then hearing your strategy about it too, and some of the rules that worked with your strategy. I thought your Wyvern video was super cool. I did enjoy that one. Very cool there, Grumpy Old Sled. You've got your hands in a lot of pots. Mage's Musings, yes. Merlinster Gandaldor. What a guy. Got to meet him at Claricon too. The producer behind that whole thing. Wow. Very cool. So again, I'm trying to follow this idea that they're very much so this covert, secret guerrilla force out there doing their dirty work to get their home back. So we're gonna wrap up the actual kilt design here pretty quick. I'm going to go ahead and get this mixed in the color cup here. This is really, really going to brighten this up by like quite a bit. Okay. So try and be careful if I can. Make that part of that box again. Got really, really yellow really fast. I'm still seeing some of... I can maybe get them over here. There we go. I'm still seeing some of the other colors we sprayed on here, but I don't think I really need to go that far. I think it's just two-tone yellow and call that good. And I don't have to worry about the super high-vis kind of yellow color with the bright golden yellow. It's just too much. It's extra work that doesn't need to get put in, which is a-okay by me. I've got plenty of these guys to do, so may as well just cut that out. It's not really adding a ton. It's just making it cost extra labor that I'm going to want to keep for the rest of them. On the cloak part of this, we're going to go and probably apply us some, I don't know. I might leave this for next time, actually. I'm going to have to think on this. These guys are a tough cookie. You've got, basically Batman here, but I don't know. Jack of all hobbies, master of none. Very cool. Yeah, I don't know. If you have some extra ideas for these guys, go ahead and let me know. I could kind of use some help here. I'm thinking that their cloak. I want to stay dark colors, but I don't want them to look totally totally just mute and dark the entire way through. I think adding some brown has helped. The yellow part of this too has been good. I'm gonna have to play with that some more. I don't know. I might have to go and call Kenny and see if he's got some ideas for these dudes. It's tough. It's tough. Want them to be stealthy, but you don't want them to be not appealing to look at either. Especially considering about like 20 minutes over when I was supposed to be done, but yeah, I don't know. I think the brown definitely helps. Having these splotches of mud on them gives them a bit more of a story, because that's kind of what you're trying to do with the mini, is like tell a story as I'm like throwing them everywhere. But you're kind of trying to tell a story here with your miniature and give them a something different compared to the rest of them. I'll show off what we've done with the other guys here. Let's see, where are we at with them? Where did I put them? Here we go. So these guys, right? These are their allies in combat, and you can see that they're very green. They want to be seen for whatever reason. I'll leave that up to the minister to talk about. But these are their allies in battle. They don't care that they're being seen. However, these guys do. So you can't add the same pop of color. And I'm gonna figure out what I want to do with them to make them stand out. But these are their allies. They've got a very cool motif on their shield too, which we'll be painting up in the next episode of PML here, and as we go live, because these guys don't have anything on their shields. Kind of cool. It's an interesting kind of deal we've got here, but. Well, thank you all for joining me tonight. I think that's kind of the time that I have for now. I'm gonna go and delve into my brain for colors and options. I'm gonna go look at some art maybe, and go back to the drawing board. But I do appreciate everybody for joining me. Like a grumpy old Slam, Light Mane, Calvinoni. The Dungeon Minister himself, Cal, it said Cal, Ricky Maru from the D and Disability, Mike Diamart, always good to see you in here, and the first commenter of the live stream, Miss PML herself. Let me get myself back up on screen here, if I can figure that out. There we go. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all again for joining me here tonight on PML. I'm always humbled and grateful that people show up to indulge me in my artwork here. But thank you again, and we'll see you again very, very soon for the next episode. If you'd like, go ahead and check out the PML Discord. The link is down below. Check out all of our wonderful affiliates at paintminislive.com, where you can go and support them should you wish through our web store. And yeah, I tomorrow I will be painting again. I'm not sure exactly when, so hence the Discord shout out. Y'all have a nice night. Glad to see you're over 200 subs. Hey, thank you very much, Lightmain. I appreciate it. Everybody take care. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe, and definitely stay warm during these cold months. And we'll see you again soon. Bye, everyone.